One Star Rewind.
All right. Welcome to One Star Rewind. I am your host, Cory, and today on the episode, we have Sarah Beth, who is general manager of Cultivate712, which is an art gallery here in downtown Waco. Welcome, Sarah Beth.
Thank you.
To the podcast. Your first podcast, right?
My first podcast.
Oh, man. Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
Okay. Well, Sarah Beth, you are here for history. This is the longest one-star review that we have ever read on the show.
Do I get a trophy for that?
You get a trophy. We'll
Okay,
present that to you at the end of the episode.
Perfect. I want it engraved.
Yeah, we'll get Mike to start making that right now.
Okay.
So we'll get him on that. But before we dive into the one-star, tell us a little bit about you, how you got started at Cultivate, and like your job and what you do there right now.
Yeah. So I have been at Cultivate for 3.5 years now, and it started with me just walking in one day off the street, and our owner, Rebecca, just really, I guess, liked me. And she was like, "Do you want to start working here tomorrow?"
Yes.
And I was
how any job should start, right?
Right? I was like, "You don't even know me. I don't know you." But I showed up the next day, and we talked about it, and I did decide to work there, and it's 3.5 years later, and here we are.
I feel like that's how like an art thief would get a job at an art gallery. Be like, "Can I just work tomorrow?" And then you start like stealing the art or something. But
just slowly but surely.
Yeah, slowly but surely taking stuff out. Well, dang, 3.5 years. So then give us like the quick, like if you were to describe Cultivate to somebody, how would you describe it to someone that's never been there before?
Mm-hmm. I would say that we are an art gallery that also specializes in public and private events.
Cool.
And our mission is arts, community, culture events.
Nice.
And so, that's exactly what we want to do is we want to be a space that the community of Waco can come in and learn about the arts, hold public events, network, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I love it. All right. Well, let's, because we said this was a pretty lengthy one. So we do want to obviously always preference this. Cultivate has like no one-star reviews. So this is obviously a major outlier, which a lot of our businesses that we've had on, it's kind of the case. It's a great space, has some vendors that sell in the front. There's also tenants upstairs. A lot of them are in the creative world and Creative Waco and some other places up there. So Cultivate is just a hub for creatives. So there's just so much love around this place that it was like kind of shocking to me that there was even one star. But there is one.
There always has to be one.
There is always one. So we've talked about the present, what you're doing now with Cultivate. It's now time to rewind. Okay, here's the review. This was from 2 years ago. It has the name Caitlin Morley, and there's a picture. And we emphasize this, Sarah Beth, because sometimes you see a review that's like from the letter N, and there's no picture, and you're like, okay, someone just made this Gmail account just to like thrash a business. This is a person.
She's putting her face and name out there.
She put it out there, which I respect. I like that.
Yeah.
She's left 2 reviews in her lifetime, so this being one of them. All right, here we go. I'm going to kind of read it fast. If I could give this less than a 1 star, I would. Events should be special and stress-free. Unless you want to get gray hair by the end of your event, do not host an event here. This is where I had my graduation party from Baylor. If you are not interested in details, long story short, I repeat, do not host an event here. And that's all in caps. If you would like to know more, here it is. Okay, here we go. I'm going to speed read. I met with the owner February 22nd. I have all of my notes from the meeting. The owner laid out all of the things that they would provide, and that was covered in our payment as well as the things we were responsible for. I met with her along with my mother, who can attest to all of this. For about an hour, we went over our vision for the night, our total number of guests, who we're catering from, etc. It is finally May 18th. Okay, so she met February 22nd. May 18th. We arrive at Cultivate to set up. This is where it all went south. ... Page 2. The previous party is still occurring. Okay, there's another party. The bathrooms are filthy. We end up taking out their trash. Our linens were mysteriously stolen and are nowhere to be found. The projector for our video does not work. The servers are not there. The dishes and silverware, supposed to be provided, in parentheses, are all dirty from the previous party, and the list goes on. No event runs smoothly, however. I would have loved for the owner to handle the issue with grace and professionalism. Instead, she talked badly about me and my mom to our own guests, met me with attitude, and eventually disappeared instead of handling the issues. After paying a large sum, sorry, we're on page 3 now. After paying a large sum of money for an event to last from 6 to 10, the owner's husband started cleaning up at 9:15, disturbing our guests as if they needed anything else to turn them off. These are just the highlights of the things that went wrong, and might I add, continue to go wrong. Where are we at? These are, I know graduation can be very stressful, and we are too disappointed we are not on the same page. We certainly learned some great lessons, how we can be better, communicate, and set expectations more clearly. Thanks so much for your input. Oh, and I missed the part about, so unless you want your grandma cleaning our own dishes, your guests fumbling around to set up a party they were invited to and to be talked badly about by a stranger, do not host an event here. Oh my goodness gracious. And I might add, to continue to go wrong even after the event is over and we are trying to get our security deposit back. Okay. Oh my Lord.
A lot of material there.
Oh my gosh, dude. I have never read that much. I even read it out of order because it was so long. So clearly, to summarize, this was an event, a graduation party. She wanted it to go swimmingly. Perfect. Give me your thoughts. Usually we go line by line with these. We would be here till next Sunday. So give me your thoughts on this, Sarah Beth. What was like the initial reaction, maybe from you or from the owner? Cultivate has some opinions on this too. Give me kind of some feedback of what happened here in the past two years ago.
Absolutely. So as a brief overview for a little context, so this was an event thrown by 8 sorority girls. And so they met with the owner to go over all the details of what they would provide, as she says.
Oh.
And then once the event was going, all of the mothers came and had specific input as well. And so
8 sorority girls
8
with
sorority
8
girls.
mothers.
8 mamas.
Oh, baby.
That's
okay.
a lot of cooks in the
That's
kitchen.
a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
And so there's a lot that can go wrong with that. And throwing events are very hard, especially if you have not done it before.
Yeah.
And our space, we do say, is a very, clean kind of bare bones space so that, you can bring in your own vendors to make it what you want.
Sure.
And that might have gotten lost in translation is kind of what I'm guessing happened here because I did not work this event.
Yeah.
But I think, what we realized from this is that we over communicate now.
Sure.
And that has worked very well for us.
Yeah.
I'm trying to even think of where to start with all of
I know. I was trying to find parts in here. I think kind of give you a moment to peruse it again, Sarah Beth. You kind of go, all these reviews it's always a story, right? It tells a story. So clearly they had the meeting, they felt really good. They went over the vision, they talked about what it was going to be like. And then the day of, and it sounds like having an event before their event is kind of what sparked a lot of the snowball effect, because you clearly have an event going on. Well, clearly there's going to be some mess because there's an event going on. So having some time to clean up is valid. And it sounds like maybe they were thinking that was going to happen sooner or something like that. But that's clearly where, and we start on page 2, kind of where this was, where I feel like the snowball started coming down.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's totally, appropriate then to feel stressed about that.
Sure.
And occasionally we do double book parties on the same day. So not at the same time, but at the same day. And so we do have to do a very quick turnaround, which we have learned to do well. Yeah. And this is one of the experiences that probably taught us a ton on how to do it better.
Yeah.
And so with that, sometimes it is really difficult to get parties to end on time.
Sure.
And so maybe that was what was happening, is that they were running late. And So we do a lot of the cleaning and setup while the new group will be doing setup.
Yeah.
So it's kind of multitasking. We bring
Sure.
in extra staff to get it all done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm sure from what we've learned, it can be really stressful for the new people coming in, and they don't understand, that we have a formula, we can get it done really quickly.
Yeah.
So we do try to avoid that now as
Sure.
much as possible.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
What was your take on the one thing that stands out to me is talking about the line where she says the owner's husband started cleaning up at 9:15, disturbing our guests as if they needed anything else to turn them off. I think like you kind of appreciate when somebody is like cleaning up. Like I imagine maybe that's throwing out some plates into a trash can or just something to kind of help the end of the night speed up, not rushing. It doesn't say owner's husband started pushing people out the door. It just said started cleaning up at 9:15. Well, your event ends at 10. I mean, I think that's probably appropriate. We've had my wife and I have been doing foster care here recently, and now having kids from no kids to now 2 kids. It's like you do kind of clean up as you're going because it just can get overwhelming with all the stuff everywhere. So I think that's I think it's petty a little bit. I know we don't like to bash the reviewers here, but that one has stuck out to me.
Yeah, so that was really funny reading it because I know exactly, what's going on there. And we do charge for setup and cleanup time just to, help hold people accountable to the time frame that they have picked.
Yeah.
And so part of it is I'm thinking that they came in at 6 p.m. expecting to just start their party.
Yeah.
Which is we always say at least 1 hour for setup. So their event shouldn't have started till 7. And we say 1 hour to 30 minutes for cleanup.
Yeah.
And so if it's 30 minutes, around 9:15, if their event ends at 10, is when, when we would go around and try and help them, organize things as much as possible without, making the guests leave at that point.
Yeah.
But, helping clear plates,
Yeah.
getting things out of the way, taking trash out. And then at 9:30, we'd say, hey, it's time for everyone to start cleaning. We really would appreciate the help.
Sure.
And so that, I think, is what was going on is that, they were just getting ready to shut things down and trying to make it as smooth of a process as possible.
Yeah.
And this time and one other time that I know of, people have been a little off put by it.
Sure.
So I think it's good to outline that expectation.
I think you always, as a business owner, you always resist the urge to be like, oh, if you owned a business, you would understand these practices. But that's totally one where I think they would get it if they did it more often. I feel like a lot of reviews, especially 1-stars, get a little personal sometimes because they're very heated in the moment. Usually these reviews are left like an hour after they happen or the next day after everyone gets together and talks and says all their terrible things. The personal moment here, when you bring grandma into a review, it's good. But then when she says, so unless you want your grandma cleaning your own dishes, your guest, is that fumbling? Oh yeah, fumbling around to set up a party they were invited to and to be talked badly about by a stranger. Do not host an event here. I just love these like moments where clearly grandma was cleaning a dish and maybe grandma didn't care, but somebody noticed it. And it's just funny to always bring grandma into a review, but grandma made it into this review, Sarah Beth. So
she did. Special lady.
I think dude, 3.5 years off the top of your head, like you've probably had, Cultivate's had how many events? 1,000 events? Like there's been so many.
I mean, for context, we've had 3 events already this week, and it is a Thursday, and we're going to have 2 more by the end of the week.
By the end of the week. So like so many events, and that there's so many opportunities for things to go wrong. So for this to be like the one review, now honestly, they've written enough words here for like 19 1-star reviews, but but I think that's it speaks very highly to what you have going on. And then let's see. Oh, that was the reply there. Yeah. I think I read that. Here, let me clarify this. I read that as part of the review. It was so long. There was a reply. The reply was, I know graduation can be very stressful and we are 2 we are too disappointed we're not on the same page. We certainly learned some great lessons on how we can better communicate and set expectations more clearly. Thanks so much for your input. So that was the reply to Caitlin Morley, not part of the 1-star review. I misspoke when I read it. Well, Sarah Beth, any other lasting thoughts before we kind of wrap it up here? I mean, you didn't work the event. Do you remember anything after the event from like staff that was there or from the owner? Like, do you remember this when it happened, or do you not remember this?
I do. So I was not staffing it that night, but I do know the staff that was. And it's really interesting reading through it for the second time and, most recent time, and seeing that, we do ask them to help with the cleaning and with the setup. And so that's something that all of it, checks out with our policies, and something that we do in depth talk about with the people who are going to have events here. So
Sure.
When I came in the next day, I did hear that it was kind of a horror story and it had been a really difficult event, but didn't want to talk bad about anyone.
Sure.
So we didn't get too into it.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. Okay. So, we got one more thing, then we'll wrap it up. So the 1-star rewind, right? We always go, it's in the past. These reviews happened in the past. So we've been in the past, we read the review. The present, we talked about what you're currently doing, what Cultivate's doing right now. Do you think, maybe phrase it another way, how has this review, do you think, affected the way you do things moving into the future? So, and you might have touched on that a little bit, telling groups, hey, you're responsible for cleanup and for setup and stuff like that. Is there anything else that you think this review triggered in how then you do processes and procedures in the future?
Absolutely. So I think it's kind of funny to say that difficult events and reviews like this are really a blessing.
Yeah.
But they help us become so much better at what we do and to be able to work out all of the kinks. And so I think one of them is just that we try to stay in, very in-depth contact with the people that we're going to be working with, and making sure that everything is clear, or if they don't want to set up their event, that they make sure that they're hiring someone to do it, or that they're hiring us to do it. And, calling them a month before the event, 3 weeks before the event, and then a week before the event, just to make sure if there's any changes that we are very aware of them and can help. And I think that we are so much more careful about scheduling 2 events on the same day. And knowing, okay, we need to make sure it's, either 2 very easy events, or at least one of them is very easy in several hours before the next one.
Sure.
So
That makes
I
sense.
think we've learned so much more about timing and communication and about what we should offer and what we just can't.
Good. Yeah. I think that's awesome. I think that 1-star reviews are always so interesting for managers and business owners, because part of you wants to just be so mad, and you're like, forget these people. Like, they don't know what the heck they're talking about. But there is always a little bit of truth in some of these things. And the best way to take that is to read it, figure out what I can do better, and then move forward. A lot of it is, a lot of these reviews are emotions and bringing grandma into it. So it's like, that's okay. Some of this is a little, I don't need to worry about that part, but there are always little bits and parts. So it's always good to take something out of it. Okay. Well, we'll end on this. If Caitlin Morley was in this room right now, what would you say to her, Sarah Beth?
Caitlin Morley, if you, Baylor grad, are hearing this on a podcast somewhere, I am so sorry that you had such a difficult event. I really, truly am. But I am so thankful for everything that you helped us learn. And I hope you would be proud of how much better we're doing. And, come back sometime.
Nice. Good. Thanks, Sarah Beth. That's great. Yeah. I think an 8-person graduation party.
That sounds so stressful.
8 mamas.
Oh, my Lanta.
Oh, baby. That's brutal. But anyway, Sarah Beth, Cultivate712, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, we appreciate a little 1-star rewind. So, all right, y'all, you have a great week.
Bye.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.